Disclaimer. This podcast is for educational and informational purposes only. It is not medical advice, and I am not a doctor. Always consult with a qualified healthcare professional before starting or changing any supplement, peptide, or medical treatment. Let's talk about one of the most interesting developments in the world of peptides and longevity science, OS-01. You might have heard the name floating around on social media, or maybe you've seen it featured in skincare products from companies like OneSkin. OS-01 is being called a breakthrough peptide for skin health and cellular rejuvenation, but what's really going on beneath the surface? Today, we're diving deep into how this peptide works, what the science says, and what it might mean for aging, not just on the outside, but inside the body too. So, OS-01 stands for OneSkin-01, and it's a synthetic peptide developed by a biotech company that wanted to take a new approach to anti-aging. Instead of focusing on temporary cosmetic improvements like hydration or collagen plumping, they started asking, what if we could reduce the biological age of the skin itself? They used cellular assays to screen for molecules that could actually decrease markers of senescence. Those are the zombie-like cells that accumulate with age and accelerate tissue breakdown. Out of all the compounds they tested, OS-01 stood out. It was the only one that consistently decreased the number of senescent cells while increasing markers of healthy, youthful cell function. Now, that's a big claim, and to understand why people are so excited, we have to talk about cellular senescence for a second. When a cell becomes damaged or stressed beyond repair, it can either die off through apoptosis or enter a kind of permanent sleep mode called senescence. The problem is senescent cells don't just sit there quietly. They release inflammatory molecules called SASP, short for senescence-associated secretory phenotype, that cause neighboring cells to age faster too. Think of them as the bad apples in a basket. One goes rotten, and it starts spoiling the ones around it. Over time, the accumulation of these senescent cells contributes to wrinkles, slower healing, and loss of tissue resilience. OS-01 appears to act as a xenotherapeutic, meaning it helps the body manage or reduce these aged cells. In studies using human skin models, OS-01 improved the expression of genes related to collagen synthesis, DNA repair, and overall skin barrier function. Researchers even measured biological age using a skin-specific methylation clock. Yes, there's such a thing, and found that tissue treated with OS-01 appeared biologically younger by several years compared to untreated samples. That's huge. Because while most anti-aging skincare focuses on masking signs of aging, OS-01 is working at the root, cellular function. But it's not only about looking better. Healthy skin is also critical to systemic health. It's your largest organ, and when it's compromised, it can lead to inflammation that affects the rest of the body. So in that sense, peptides like OS-01 could play a broader role in whole-body rejuvenation. Let's talk about how it works. The developers of OS-01 screened over 800 peptide fragments using machine learning to predict which sequences might influence key aging-related pathways. OS-01 emerged as the most potent for increasing DNA repair and decreasing the expression of P16, which is a major marker of senescence. It seems to activate pathways similar to FOXO, sirtuins, and NRF2. all of which are involved in cellular stress resistance and longevity. Some researchers speculate that OS-01 may indirectly support mitochondrial function by reducing oxidative stress, which would further promote cell health. Now, for most people, OS-01 is encountered in topical form. The company OneSkin has incorporated it into a serum and body lotion that are designed to penetrate the stratum corneum, the outer layer of skin, and reach living cells in the epidermis and dermis. They use a proprietary delivery system that helps ensure the peptide remains stable and bioavailable. Clinical studies have shown improvements in skin hydration, elasticity, and smoothness after consistent use, typically within 4 to 8 weeks. But what's fascinating is that early research suggests OS-01 may have potential beyond topical application. Because it acts on fundamental aging pathways, there's speculation about systemic benefits, things like tissue repair, immune modulation, and even vascular health. Of course, those uses would be considered highly experimental right now. There are no approved injectable or oral versions on the market, and safety data beyond topical use is limited. Still, in the world of longevity research, it's getting attention for what it represents: a targeted, data-driven attempt to slow cellular aging. Let's step back for a second and put this in context. For decades, the beauty and skincare industry has relied on ingredients like retinol, hyaluronic acid, or vitamin C. They work, but mostly by addressing surface-level changes. OS-01, on the other hand, represents the next evolution: bioactive peptides that influence gene expression, cell communication, and the skin's biological age. Imagine being able to track your skin's age reduction not by wrinkles or smoothness, but by an actual molecular clock. That's where this field is heading. The core mechanism involves modulation of key proteins that control the cell cycle. By downregulating P16 and upregulating markers of healthy proliferation, OS-01 helps clear out older, damaged cells and encourages replacement with new ones. It also supports the extracellular matrix by enhancing collagen and elastin synthesis, which are critical for maintaining structure and firmness. Some studies even suggest OS-01 increases the expression of aquaporin-3, a protein that helps retain moisture and improves barrier repair. Another interesting point is that OS-01 has been shown to reduce inflammation markers like IL-6 and TNF-alpha. Those are the same inflammatory signals associated with systemic aging, chronic disease, and even neurodegeneration. So, if OS-01 is calming that kind of inflammation locally in the skin, it's not far-fetched to think about broader applications where inflammation control is needed. When it comes to dosing and application, the topical form is straightforward. For facial use, most people apply a small pump once or twice daily after cleansing and before moisturizer. It's designed to be compatible with other products, but consistency matters. You're not going to see overnight transformation. Cellular turnover takes time, and most studies looked at results over several months. For those curious about hypothetical systemic use, again, this is all theoretical. It's worth noting that peptides targeting senescence systemically are still in very early stages of development. Some researchers are exploring analogs of OS-01 that might cross membranes or be delivered through microneedling or encapsulation technologies, but none of that has entered clinical trials yet. So, While it's tempting to imagine a future where you could inject or ingest OS-01 to slow aging from within, we're not quite there yet. Let's talk about how this fits into the bigger peptide landscape. We already have compounds like FOXO4, DRI, which selectively clears senescent cells, and others like epidolon, which regulate telomerase activity. OS-01 seems to sit somewhere between these, less aggressive than a senolytic, but more targeted than a cosmetic peptide. Think of it as a senomorphic, meaning it changes the behavior of aging cells instead of killing them. That's a subtle but important distinction. Senolytics can sometimes cause inflammation by destroying cells, while xenomorphics promote a healthier phenotype without collateral damage. Now, beyond the skin, the implications are exciting. If a peptide like OS-01 can modulate senescence signaling safely, it could be useful in tissues like joints, muscle, or even the vascular system. There's ongoing research into how senescent cells in those areas contribute to arthritis, sarcopenia, and cardiovascular disease. Imagine a peptide cream that not only made your skin look younger, but also helped maintain joint mobility or blood vessel elasticity. That's the future we're inching toward. Something else worth mentioning is the approach OneSkin took to validate OS-01. They didn't rely on subjective measurements. They used molecular biomarkers, RNA sequencing, and epigenetic clocks to quantify age reduction. That's what separates OS-01 from marketing fluff. When you see data showing reduced methylation age in human skin samples, it's hard not to take notice. Now, let's address the elephant in the room: cost. OS-01 containing products aren't cheap. But when you think about what's going into it, the research, the stability testing, the bioinformatics, there's real science behind the price. And unlike most skincare, which just targets surface hydration or appearance, this peptide is acting at the molecular level. Another question people ask is whether OS-01 can be combined with other peptides. The answer seems to be yes, at least topically. There's no known contraindication with peptides like GHKCU, which also supports collagen and wound healing. In fact, pairing OS-01 with something like GHKCU might provide synergistic effects: GHK for immediate repair and OS-01 for long-term age reversal at the cellular level. The key is not to overload the skin barrier. Too many actives at once can cause irritation, so introducing one at a time is best. As for storage, OS-01 in its commercial forms is very stable. It doesn't require refrigeration and can last several months after opening. That's another advantage compared to many custom peptides that degrade quickly. One of the more interesting anecdotes from users is that skin not only looks better but feels different, firmer, smoother, and more resilient to environmental stress. That could be the result of improved mitochondrial function or reduced local inflammation. In any case, it aligns with what the lab studies show. There's also emerging research that OS-01 might support DNA damage repair, specifically in the form of increased expression of genes like XRCC1 and PCNA, which are involved in fixing single-strand breaks. DNA integrity is crucial for preventing mutations and maintaining youthful cell behavior, so that's a very promising sign. Let's get philosophical for a second. Peptides like OS-01 are forcing us to rethink what anti-aging really means. Instead of chasing youth as a cosmetic illusion, We're now learning how to slow the biological processes that cause aging in the first place. That's not science fiction anymore. That's active research. Of course, with every new technology, we need balance and skepticism. More studies are needed, especially long-term ones. We don't yet know how OS-01 might affect deeper systems over time. But the direction is exciting, and the data we have so far look strong. Imagine where this could go in the next decade. Maybe personalized peptide regimens based on your biological age, DNA repair capacity, or senescence profile. Maybe OS-01 becomes part of a broader longevity stack alongside NAD boosters, mitochondrial peptides like MOC, and telomerase activators like epithelon. It's the merging of skincare and cellular medicine into one field. And while topical OS-01 is the only form currently available to consumers, it represents a proof of concept that peptides can be used intelligently to reverse markers of aging, not just hide them. As always with peptides, quality control matters. Buying from reputable sources ensures purity and proper peptide sequence. The OS-01 used in OneSkin products is tested for stability, activity, and endotoxins. That's something you should look for if this peptide ever becomes available in research-grade forms for systemic exploration. If you're wondering when you might start seeing visible results, most users report smoother texture and improved elasticity within the first 2 months, with continued gains after that. Remember, it's not about masking, it's about reprogramming. Think of it as teaching your cells how to act young again. As this field grows, OS-01 is likely to inspire the next generation of peptides, ones that target specific age-related pathways in each tissue. We're already seeing buzz about OS-02 and OS-03 in development, which aim to take the same idea even deeper into muscle and vascular tissue. Now, let's circle back to where we started. Aging isn't just a cosmetic problem. It's the root of almost every chronic condition we face: cardiovascular disease, neurodegeneration, metabolic decline. If we can slow the cellular processes that drive aging, we don't just look younger, we stay healthier longer. OS-01 might be a small step, but it's pointing in that direction. And that's what makes this peptide so fascinating. It sits at the crossroads of beauty, biology, and biotechnology. A tiny chain of amino acids designed not to cover up aging, but to actually make cells behave as if they're younger. Before we wrap up, one more quick disclaimer. The information in this episode is for educational purposes only and is not intended as medical advice. Always consult your healthcare provider before using any peptide, supplement, or treatment, especially those still in research phases. Thanks for listening, keep learning, and stay curious.